Hello and welcome to day 95 of our Chronological Bible in a Year reading. Today we have Judges 16, 17, and 18. Judges 16. And Shimshon went to Azza and saw a woman there, a whore, and went into her. The Azathites saying, Shimshon has come here. So they went around and lie in wait for him all night at the gate of the city and kept silent all night, saying, in the morning when it is daylight, then we shall kill him. Now Shimshon lay until midnight and rose at midnight and took hold of the doors of the gate of the city and the two gateposts and pulled them up with the bar and put them on his shoulders and took them to the top of the hill that faces Hebron. He took doors and two gateposts. And it came to be afterward that he loved a woman in the Wadi Sorek, whose name was Delilah. And the princes of the Pelishtites came up to her and said to her, entice him, and find out where his great strength lies, and see by what we might overpower him. Then we shall bind him to humble him, and let us give you, each one of us, 1,100 pieces of silver. And Delilah said to Shimshon, please reveal to me where your great strength lies, and by what you might be bound to humble you. And Shimshon said to her, if they bind me with 7 fresh cords, not yet dried, then I shall be weak and be like any other man. The princes of the Pelishtites then brought her 7 fresh cords, not yet dried, and she bound him with them, while those lying in wait stayed with her in the room. And she said to him, the Pelishtites are upon you, Shimshon. But he broke the cords as a strand of yarn breaks when it touches fire. So the secret of his strength remained unknown. And Delilah said to Shimshon, look, you have mocked me and spoken lies to me. Now please reveal to me by what you might be bound. And he said to her, if they bind me tightly with new ropes that have never been used, then I shall be weak and be like any other man. And Delilah took new ropes and bound him with them and said to him, the Pelishtites are upon you, Shimshon. And those lying in wait were sitting in the inner room, but he broke them off his arms like a thread. So Delilah said to Shimshon, until now you have mocked me and spoken lies to me. Reveal to me how you might be bound. And he said to her, if you weave the 7 locks of my head within the web. Then she fastened it with a pin and said to him, the Pelishtites are upon you, Shimshon. But he awoke from his sleep and pulled out the pin of the loom and the web. Then she said to him, how do you say I love you when your heart is not with me? You have mocked me these 3 times and have not made known to me where your great strength lies. And it came to be when she pressed him daily with her words and urged him so that his being was wearied to death, that he made known to her all his heart and said to her, no razor has ever come upon my head, for I have been a Nazarite to Elohim from my mother's womb. If I were shaven, then my strength would leave me, and I would become as weak as any other man. And Delilah saw that he had made known to her all his heart, and she sent and called for the princes of the Pelishtites, saying, come up once more, for he has made known to me all his heart. So the princes of the Pelishtites came up to her and brought the silver in their hand. And she made him sleep on her knees, and called for a man, and shaved off the 7 locks of his head. Thus she began to humble him, and his strength left him. And she said, the Pelishtites are upon you, Shimshon. And he awoke from his sleep and said, let me go out as before at other times and shake myself loose. But he did not know that Yahuwah had turned aside from him. So the Pelishtites took him and put out his eyes and brought him down to Azza and bound him with bronze shackles. And he became a grinder in the prison. But the hair of his head began to grow again after it had been shaven. And the princes of the Pelishtites gathered to offer a great slaughtering to Dagon, their mighty one, and to rejoice. And they said, our mighty one has given Shimshon, our enemy, into our hands. And the people saw him and praised their mighty one, for they said, our mighty one has given into our hands our enemy, the destroyer of our land, who slew many of us. And it came to be when their hearts were glad that they said, call for Shimshon and let him entertain us. So they called for Shimshon from the prison, and he entertained them. And they made him stand between the columns. And Shimshon said to the young man who held him by the hand, let me alone and let me feel the columns which support the house so that I lean on them. And the house was filled with men and women, and all the princes of the Pelishtites were there. And about 3,000 men and women were on the roof who watched Shimshon entertaining. And Shimshon called to Yahuwah, saying, O Adonai Yahuwah, remember me, I pray. Strengthen me, I pray, only this time, O Elohim, and let me avenge myself with the Pelishtites with vengeance for my 2 eyes. And Shimshon took hold of the 2 metal columns which supported the house, and he braced himself against them, one on his right and the other on his left. And Shimshon said, "Let me die with the Pelishtites." And he bowed himself mightily, and the house fell on the princes and all the people in it. And the dead that he killed at his death were more than he had killed in his life. And his brothers and all his father's household came down and took him, and brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol in the tomb of his father Manoah. And he had ruled Israel 20 years. Chapter 17. There was a man from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Mikahu. And he said to his mother, "The 1,100 pieces of silver that were taken from you, and on which you put a curse, even saying it in my ears. Look, the silver is with me, I took it." And his mother said, "Baruch of Yahuwah be my son," which means blessed. And he gave back the 1,100 pieces of silver to his mother, and his mother said, "I had truly kadoshed the silver," which kadosh means set apart or sanctified. "I had truly kadoshed the silver from my hand to Yahuwah for my son, to make a carved image and a molded image, and now I give it back to you." And he gave the silver back to his mother, and his mother took 200 pieces of silver and gave them to the silversmith, and he made it into a carved image and a molded image. And they were in the house of Mikahu. Now the man Micah had a house of mighty ones, and made a shoulder garment and house idols. And he ordained one of his sons, who became his Kohen, which is a priest. In those days there was no sovereign in Israel. Everyone did what was right in his own eyes. And there was a young man from Bethlehem in Yehudah, of the clan of Yehudah. And he was a Levite, and he was sojourning there. And the man went out of the city of Bethlehem in Yehudah to sojourn wherever he could find a place. And he came to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, as he had journeyed. And Micah said to him, "Where do you come from?" And he said to him, "I am a Levite from Bethlehem in Yehudah, and I am on my way to find a place to sojourn." And Micah said to him, "Dwell with me, and be a father and a Kohen to me, and I give you 10 pieces of silver per year, and allowance of garments and your food." And the Levite went in. So the Levite agreed to dwell with the man, and the young man became like one of his sons to him. Then Micah ordained the Levite, and the young man became his Kohen, and he was in the house of Micah. And Micah said, "Now I know that Yahuwah does good to me, since I have a Levite as Kohen." Chapter 18. In those days there was no sovereign in Israel, and in those days the tribe of the Danites was seeking an inheritance for itself to dwell in, for until that day all their inheritance among the tribes of Israel had not yet fallen to them. And the children of Dan sent 5 men of their clan, brave men from Zorah and Eshtaol, to spy out the land and search it. And they said to them, "Go, search the land." So they went to the mountains of Ephraim, to the house of Micah, and spent the night there. When they were near the house of Micah, they recognized the voice of the young Levite, and turned aside and said to him, "Who brought you here? What are you doing in this place, and what do you have here?" And he said to them, "Micah did such and such for me, and he hired me, and I have become his Kohen." And they said to him, "Please inquire of Elohim, and we shall know whether the journey on which we are going is prosperous." And the Kohen said to them, "Go in peace, your journey on which you go is before Yahuwah." Then the 5 men left and came to Laish, and saw the people who were in their midst, how they dwelt safely, according to the ruling of the Sidonians, at rest and unsuspecting. And no one possessing authority in the land was reproaching for any matter. And they were far from the Sidonians, and they had no word with anyone. And the spies came back to their brothers at Zorah and Eshtaol, and their brothers said to them, "What do you say?" And they said, "Arise, and let us go up against them, for we have seen the land, and look, it is very good. And you sit still. Do not hesitate to go in, to enter to possess the land. When you go, you are to come to an unsuspecting people, and the land is spacious. For Elohim has given it into your hands, a place in which there is no lack of any matter which is on the earth." And 600 men from the clan of the Danites went from there, from Zorah and Eshtaol, armed for battle. And they went up and encamped in Kiriath Yarim in Yehudah. Therefore they call that place Mahana Dan to this day. See, it is west of Kiriath Yarim. And they passed over from there to the mountains of Ephraim, and came to the house of Micah. And the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land of Laish answered and said to their brothers, "Do you know that there are in these houses a shoulder garment, and house idols, and a carved image, and a molded image? And now you know what to do." And they turned aside there, and came to the house of the young Levite man, the house of Micah, and greeted him. And the 600 men armed for battle, who were of the children of Dan, stood by the entrance of the gate. And the 5 men who had gone to spy out the land went up, and entering there, they took the carved image, and the shoulder garment, and the house idols, and the molded image, while the Kohen stood at the entrance of the gate with the 600 men who were armed for battle. And these went into Micah's house, and took the idol, and the shoulder garment, and the house idols, and the molded image. Then the Kohen said to them, "What are you doing?" And they said to him, "Be silent, put your hand over your mouth, and come with us, and be a father and a Kohen to us. Is it better for you to be a Kohen to the household of one man, or that you be a Kohen to a tribe and a clan in Israel?" And the heart of the Kohen was glad, and he took the shoulder garment, and the house idols, and the carved image, and took his place among the people. And they turned and went and put the little ones and the livestock and the valuables in front of them. They had gone some distance from the house of Micah when the men who were in the houses near Micah's house gathered together and overtook the children of Dan, and called out to the children of Dan. So they turned around and said to Micah, "What is the matter that you have gathered such a company?" And he said, "You have taken away my mighty ones which I made, and the Kohen, and you are leaving. Now what more do I have? What is this you say to me? What is the matter?" And the children of Dan said to him, "Do not let your voice be heard among us, lest men, bitter of being, fall upon you, and you lose your life, and with the lives of your household." And the children of Dan went their way. And when Micah saw that they were too strong for him, he turned and went back to his house. Then they took what Micah had made, and the Kohen who had belonged to him, and went to Laish, to a people who were at rest and unsuspecting, and smote them with the edge of the sword, and burned the city with fire. And there was no deliverer, because it was far from Sidon, and they had no word with anyone. And it was in the valley that belongs to Beth Rehob. And they built the city and dwelt there. And they called the name of the city Dan, after the name of Dan their father, who was born to Israel. But previously the name of the city was Laish. And the children of Dan put up for themselves the carved image. And Jehonathan, son of Gershom, son of Manasseh, and his sons were Kohanim, which are priests. His sons were Kohanim to the tribe of Dan until the day the land was taken into exile. And they put up for themselves the carved image of Micah, which he had made all the days that the house of Elohim was in Shiloh. That concludes our reading for today. Thanks for joining. Hope you're reading along, and peace and blessings and love to you. See you in the next one.